live and online. It's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
Back and better than ever. Sleepless with Steve. Live on YouTube, wherever you may be, however you may be watching, listening. YouTube, on your Roku, on your laptop, on your phone. I don't know if you can get them on Apple Watches. I'm not rich. I don't have an Apple or I don't have an iPhone. Anyway, wherever you may be, however you may be listening, coast to coast, border to border, it is Sleepless with Steve. And once again, we are down a member. We are down Giuseppe, the inimitable Joe, out today once again. He'll be back next week in time for Jurassic World Dominion, which I don't know if you've noticed is getting so wonderful reviews. At least every critic I know hates it already. At least every critic I know and respect hates this thing. I haven't read anything. I haven't read any reviews yet, but these headlines are like, I go on Letterboxd where I follow a ton of critics and it's all 1.5 stars. So I'm like, nice. This is gonna be fun.
I can't wait for it.
This is going to be fun. You know, I'm already not there's two things I'm not thrilled about with the title alone. I'm looking forward to seeing the original cast, but like the two things, just to mention Jurassic World Dominion real quick. One thing that really bugs me, and it flat out irks me, there's no colon in between World and Dominion. There's no colon. It's not Jurassic World Dominion. It's Jurassic World Dominion. And I don't like that one bit. Not one bit. Because there was a colon in Fallen Kingdom, but there's no colon with this.
Oh, that's okay. Screw off. No, if they had kept it consistent, I'd be like, okay, some other movies do that, but really, the one before did have a colon.
Jurassic World : Fallen Kingdom. This one's just God. Jurassic World Dominion.
That's
pissed
like
me off in a bad
tip
way.
Of the iceberg as to what's wrong here. Jesus,
it pissed me off in a bad way. You want to know the most egregious misuse of a colon was a total accident. Do you remember the movie Battle Los Angeles?
Yes. A movie I weirdly enjoyed, but I don't think I'd like it now.
I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. That was one of the worst movies of 2011. But anyway, Battle Los Angeles. I'm not making this up. You can look this up because I noticed it. The movie is called Battle Los Angeles.
Right.
The title card of the movie is Battle: Los Angeles. Somebody screwed that one up.
Branding is very important, guys.
It absolutely is. But yeah, and the other thing I don't like about Jurassic World Dominion is there's another movie this summer with Minion in the title. I'm not looking forward to that one bit, not one bit. But no, I'm seeing it tomorrow. So we'll talk about that back with Joe tomorrow. What a rabbit hole to work down this to start this show. We come to you live and in living color every Wednesday evening to talk movies. That's our specialty. At least my specialty. Dom's way smarter. He's got way more specialties, plural. But we are talking Top Gun Maverick. We had to table Top Gun Maverick to talk about Bob's Burgers last week to my insistence, which we had a lot of fun talking. Last week was a fun show. Mm-hmm. Last week was a really fun show. Talked about a lot of different things, which is kind of the mood here. But I'm excited because we get to talk about Top Gun Maverick, and then we can chase it by talking and reacting to the Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe trailer. Last Thursday, the new Beavis and Butthead movie, which has been teased for almost 2 years now. It's coming to Paramount Plus. My birthday weekend, humble brag, baby. June 23rd. June 23rd, it comes out to Paramount Plus. Man, that's going to be a banger weekend. I turn 26 on Saturday. We get a new Beavis and Butthead movie 2 days before and a new Luke Combs album the day before my birthday, Luke Combs, country singer. So, man, it's a banger weekend. Black Phone also comes out that weekend in theaters. The Ethan Hawke horror movie. Elvis comes out that weekend. So
I'm always looking forward to a Baz Luhrmann film, even if I never like them.
You know, I do not hate.
I don't hate them. I do not hate them.
He is really the Michael Bay of musical productions, isn't he?
He's what I wish Michael Bay truly was. Like, I wish you could make something just a little more competent while making it just as stylish and interesting. Like, you actually have, like, discipline. Like, it's incredible.
You're a little bit older than me, but I will say that, like, the year that we read The Great Gatsby in school, the Baz Luhrmann film came out.
Yeah.
The Baz Luhrmann film came out. And I've only seen it when it came out. I thoroughly liked it. I enjoyed that movie. I thought that movie, too, was really well cast. I thought that was just top to bottom great casting. I liked his Great Gatsby movie a lot. It's been a while since Moulin Rouge, but I did like that one too. the Ewan McGregor Moulin Rouge movie. But those are the only two I want to say I've seen by him, truth be told. I know he's made a few more. But anyway, we'll talk Elvis at the end of the month. We'll talk Jurassic World Dominion next week, and we'll talk Cha-Cha Real Smooth in the middle of that, the week of June 17th, I want to say. So we will address all of that at another day. We're here to talk about Top Gun Maverick. First things first, related to the movie, but unrelated to the quality of the movie. You know, it's funny. I was doing this piece for the radio station. I wrote an article on this. I just stumbled upon it. Maverick is now in the top 10 most popular boy names in Iowa for newborn baby boys.
That makes sense.
And guess what? It is like number 48 most popular domestically.
Wow.
This year. And crazy to think, and this is what I wrote in the piece, which you can read at y105music.com if you care. I wrote about this, is that it's already in the top 10. And this thing, the news of it came out this weekend. The movie hasn't even been out a month yet. You know, so that's what I think is fascinating. I think Maverick's I'm very particular with names, or like, you know, I kind of get judgy with names. I think Maverick's a great boy's name, though. I think that's a really strong boy's name.
It's a good sounding name, but it invokes a specific personality type that if the child does not turn out to be that way, which is fine, you know, obviously you don't know. But like if they don't turn out to be that way, it gets a little weird. Where it's like, what if they were like super shy, timid, and agreeable? Where it's like, well,
the three of us could not pull off the name Maverick.
No, not
you
at
and
all.
Joe,
No.
not at all. But I'm telling you, if I want my son, if I ever have kids, and I have a son, and I really want him to be a radio DJ, Maverick Pulaski.
That's a good one. That is a good one.
Maverick Pulaski. That's a dope ass name. I'm gonna have to write that down. We're talking Top Gun Maverick, directed by Joseph Kosinski. Joseph Kosinski's probably most famous for doing, I completely forgot he directed it. It's no disrespect. He did Tron Legacy.
Actually, I did remember this fact, but only like in the past couple of days. Chelsea, my wife.
Gotta get used to saying that. We all gotta get used to saying that.
I know. I almost said girlfriend. But even though I've been engaged to her for a bit, but she loves that movie. She likes Tron Legacy. She had never seen Tron until I showed it to her a couple years ago, which is just funny. Wow. But cause like there's so much in that movie that connects. But anyway,
it was one of the OG New Decade Legacy sequels.
Tron Legacy. Absolutely was. It really felt like a novelty, something like that. Like, whoa, we're really going back 30 years into the future, or 30 years into the past to revisit it now. Where are they now? And it's like, now that's literally the whole shtick of every other movie out there.
The whole industry.
100%. But
we prove it every week on this show.
We happily partake.
As we do.
But, you know, that actually makes perfect sense with what I will say later on about, you know, just kind of my pitch about the critiques on this movie. So, yeah, that makes sense.
You have critiques on this movie? But anyway.
I do.
Anyway, Top Gun Maverick, though. Kosinski directed it. I remember Joseph Kosinski. I loved Only the Brave. That was a phenomenal movie. Came out about 4 years. I want to say 2018, 4 years ago. Miles Teller's in that too, and he's in Top Gun Maverick. Only the Brave was a spectacular. I think Joe's seen it too. Spectacular, like drama action thriller about firefighters, like forest firefighters.
Is it about the real life story about
yes,
which
I did not know going into it was a real life story.
I remember that story when it came out. It was
I did
big.
not know that.
Yeah,
there's certain big events like that, like you know Sully. You know the movie Sully with Tom Hanks.
Yes.
Do not remember that happening, and I was a conscious individual at that. I do not remember that happening.
I mean, we were in high school, but yeah.
You know, I do not remember that happening. It's weird for me to forget something like that. But that Only the Brave, I think one of the reasons I enjoyed it a lot, and it's just a tremendously well-made movie on all fronts. I did not know that was a real story, so I truly didn't know what happened. And I'm not going to lie, I cried like a fiend to that thing. That thing was a spectacular drama. If you haven't seen it, that's totally a movie that you'll make your dad cry. That's your dad's favorite movie, but even he's never heard of it.
It's a Only the Brave movie.
Only the Brave, my buddy. I still remember it's hanging in my dad's basement. The posters on our crawl space door. My buddy from the theater gave me the poster of that movie because he knew how much I liked it. But Anyway, though, Kaczynski directs Top Gun Maverick, a movie 30 plus years in the making. And I said this in my review, and because I saw this opening day Thursday last week or 2 weeks ago, I couldn't have told you really what the first excellent Legacy sequel was. Maybe it was Blade Runner 2049.
That's
you can
it
make
for me.
that.
That is
you can make that argument.
That's definitely it for me.
You could make the argument, and I kind of would, thinking about it. And it depends on how far back you want to go, but I would lean towards Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh, you know
what?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I would lean towards Fury Road because you can absolutely count that as a Legacy sequel. But I got to say, I think it might be Top Gun Maverick now, as far as I'm concerned. Wow. This is at least a Mach 5 level improvement over the original. The original movie, I like the original movie. And of course, I republished my 2.5 out of 4 star review of it on my website. So everybody at work has been giving me grief about it. I feel like Top Gun, the original OG Top Gun, that's a movie that you can absolutely like now. But I feel like in order to really love it and have that connection with it, you had to see it in the summer of '86. You had to be in the theater watching it. That was a true summer blockbuster. I could absolutely see that thing popping on the big screen. And then in that one movie, I can never remember the name of it, but one of the few movies Tarantino actually acted in, he did that whole monologue about how Top Gun is the gayest movie ever made, and that's why it's the best Hollywood screenplay. And I sort of subscribe to those themes that he talks about.
The volleyball scene for the record, I have not seen the first Top Gun, but I have seen probably every scene in like short snippets because it's one of those movies that culturally, its cultural significance just sprays all over the landscape, just bursts, just spews all over cinema because it is just it's so 80s, it's so machismo, it's so military that it's punching way above its pay grade compared to the original movie. And I haven't even seen the movie, but everyone I talk to pretty much agrees with that, where it's like, yeah, I'd give it like 2.5 or like a B- or something.
It's not a great movie, but it's a fun movie. It's a lot of fun, and I like Tony Scott. Tony Scott's got some interesting stylistic touches as a director that I've always appreciated. Obviously, Brother of Ridley, Rest the Dead as well on that note. But Top Gun Maverick, we'll get into it. This movie takes place 36 years after the original, and the only person I think who's aged better than Pete Maverick Mitchell is probably Tom Cruise himself, who, of course, plays Maverick in this movie. And this movie, just there's so many directions I can go in this. I wrote a way too long review of this thing, but I think the first thing to note is that this is not a movie that's very sticky with fan service. This is not a movie that is trying to recapture the magic, whatever it was 36 years ago, that the original Top Gun Maverick, or the original Top Gun managed to do, rather. This is a movie that pays light homage to the original, has a couple references, brings back one character in particular for a little while, in a sort of a mentorship role, Val Kilmer, and then decides it wants to really do its own thing, which is absolutely what it should do. You got a barrage of faces here. Glenn Powell is the smug hangman. You'll remember him from Richard Linklater's Everybody Wants Some. God, he's so good at playing arrogant. Like he's so good.
He's got that smile. He's got that snarl. You don't use that word often.
Yeah.
He's got that snarl on his face that just makes you want to punch it. That specific part of his face where the mouth forms the snarl. You just want to hit it with a bottle.
He's so good at what he does, though. You got Monica Barbero, who's from The Good Cop. You got Jay Ellis, who I really liked in the first Escape Room movie. And you also have Lewis Pullman, who plays Bob. Just plain Bob.
Son of Bill Pullman.
Yeah, son of Bill Pullman. Yes,
indeed. I actually saw that in the credits. I'm like, is that Pullman? Could he be? And
it is. Yeah, I remember him from Strangers, the sequel, Pray at Night. And then, of course, you got Miles Teller as Rooster, the son of his late wingman, of Maverick's late wingman, Goose. So Miles Teller's here too. He's really the supporting actor of this whole thing. And then you also have Jennifer Connelly too, Penny, who's a single mother and bar owner as well. And I'll never turn down the opportunity to see Jennifer Connelly. Third person who's aged as best as Maverick, Tom Cruise, Jennifer Connelly.
That's true. Remind me, she was not in the first movie, right?
No, she wasn't.
Was her character in the first movie?
I think if I remember correctly, and I didn't get a chance to rewatch the original Top Gun, but I think she's referenced. I think she's like referenced.
Wow. Okay.
In that. I mean, the one fatal continuity error, this whole thing, there's one fatal continuity error, and you haven't seen the original, so you didn't catch it. The one fatal continuity error of this thing is that Rooster was already born in the original Top Gun.
Oh, so he would
be like pushing 40. Oops. That's the one fatal continuity error of this whole thing that I like realized about halfway through. I'm like, wait a minute, didn't Goose mention that he had a son back home?
Even if Goose like impregnated his wife literally 30 seconds before the mission that killed him, it still wouldn't work. He would not have been. Yeah,
it still wouldn't work. But either way, though, this movie is such a great time. It does so many things well, and I seriously, I think Mad Max Fury Road is the last time I truly enjoyed a non-superhero blockbuster quite like this one. I'm not saying it's perfect. It's not. There's one, I think, shortcoming in this thing that I could note, but everything it does overshadows that for the rating that I'll give it. And with that, I'll turn it over to Don, because you saw it a little bit more recent than I did too.
Yeah. So potential left turn here, but I do want to bring up how, like I said earlier, that Top Gun just is a massive cultural touchstone, whether you want to admit it or not. And it's got its quirks. You can make fun of it, and you should make fun of it. But it's definitely a big part of. We're feeling those effects today, and one of those that's interesting is the military entertainment complex. Now, I didn't share any of this with you, Steve, before going in, and I promise I will be very short with this. But it is a very interesting thing, a phenomenon where the United States Department of Defense, which is the civilian part that handles all the military, the whole U.S. military, they actually invite filmmakers of all kinds, of all levels, all parts of the filmmaking process to work with them, the actual military, the actual Department of Defense, and will give them like access to like footage, access to like cool military hardware, not literally, but like, hey, here's like, you can film this, and like, yeah, we can provide you some realistic looking stuff. We can advise you on how this looks, how that looks. And particularly the fighter jets and the Top Gun craze when that first movie came out in the 80s, that is the poster boy for the shirtless, sun-kissed on the beach poster boy of the military entertainment complex. And it is a very curious thing. Some might even argue, many may even argue, a very problematic thing, because as part of that deal, the Department of Defense also holds, as part of that deal, the ability to withhold any funding or withhold any, parts of the agreements that they supplied, should they think the United States military be shown in a bad way. And so that, you can think of some problems there down the line. And there are other, sources that go way more in depth and much better in depth about this. But just to give a quick list, according to Wikipedia, about things that have part of that are like things you would expect, like say Iron Man, the very first one in 2008, that features heavily the military. Of course, Top Gun, Transformers, like Michael Bay's Transformers is like all about the military half the time, as opposed to the actual Transformers. The James Bond series, Black Hawk Down, etc., etc. Basically anything, and this is just a very, very condensed list.
Act of Valor is another one. That was the one that used the real life Navy SEALs too.
Oh, that's a great one, 100%. And it is without a doubt, unabashedly, this is American propaganda. And The original more so than the new one, but the new one still very much so. And the power that wields is incredible because, how we consume movies. You could say that America has this cultural imperialism where we influence so much of entertainment, so much of how the world makes their stuff. You can make so much this about Bollywood and all that stuff, how they're doing their own thing, but they copy a lot of stuff from us. All of the movie making parts of the world, other parts of the world that make movies, they copy some of the best stuff from us because we unlock that formula, that money making formula. And it's very interesting how this military entertainment complex works. And it is very effective in Top Gun because, son of a bitch, when those fighter jets fly and those pilots go and those tricks start flipping and flying and all over the place on this movie, it is a riveting, exciting piece of work. This is a tight movie that just freaking goes, baby. Holy shit. I was not expecting something of this efficiency.
Yes. That's the word.
To grace the screens here. I'm complimenting this movie. I'm not even saying like it's great necessarily. I'm not even hitting on that type of quality quite yet. What I'm saying is that it is a marvel how Top Gun Maverick is managed to be as sleek as its logo. Like, goddamn, how the characters are quickly introduced, how endearing they are right away, how Tom Cruise in a lot of establishing shots and a lot of not deep, but rather quick, but still poignant and intimate moments, and, and the cinematography still manages to hit all those emotional parts of an 80s film while still feeling very much its own thing. This is more of an 80s film than more of an 80s film than what other films try to harken back to, if you know what I mean. It doesn't have the VCR aesthetic. It doesn't have, it certainly does. It has those synths. It has those very clear synths. It literally plays Danger Zone in the first minute, which is what everyone's wanting.
Sure.
But after that, it is surprisingly very much its own thing while still maintaining the tightness of a summer blockbuster. And that efficiency, that sleekness that you have in not only the fighter jets, but also in the script and the pacing is incredible. If you study movies, I think, not that I do, but if you study movies, I would think you would want to study this just in terms of how to pace a movie, because it is something else.
Yeah, it's not often we get a big budget, 9-figure budget movie that's this well paced. And I keep going back to the fact when I talk about this with friends, it's like, this movie had every reason in the planet to suck.
Yes.
Or at least be aggressively mediocre. Because the danger, and you see this a lot with movies that have lingered long in development hell. I always go back to, it's not even that old, but I go back to like Rules Don't Apply, the Warren Beatty movie, which I think 6 people saw.
Yeah.
Like even Silence, Martin Scorsese's movie, to a degree, as good as that movie is and ended up being. The problem, that's more of a passion project too.
Right.
But like the problem is when you get like a lot of these big budget movies. Mad Max had this problem for a while. Mad Max 4, Matrix 4 had this problem
Matrix.
too. Yeah, I was talking to a friend today about how that movie came, bombed, went, disappeared, and nobody talks about it. Matrix Resurrections. But with Top Gun, though, it's like it's the kind of a commonality you see with these movies in development hell is that they've gone through so many rewrites and they've been they've had so many director changes and so many plan changes and stop starts and everything that like you feel like there's a fragment of every single screenplay in the finished version. And then it never really finds its own voice. That's not the case here. That's what I was expecting. That's not the case here. This thing is surprisingly tight. It might be one of the tighter 2-hour and 11 minute movies I've ever seen.
That's the thing. It's not even a 90-minute movie. It's two.
No, it's not, when you say tight, 2 hours, like
but it still manages to feel tight. No pun intended, but it flies right by.
It does. No, it goes by quick, this whole thing. And it really, I was enjoying it. Up until the mission
Okay.
in the unnamed foreign country was introduced. And it's that scene in the classroom when Maverick is going over the mission, which is very similar. I'm not the first to point it out, very similar to the original Star Wars, but not in a copycat way. Where he says there are two miracles need to happen in order for this mission to be successful, which involves blowing up an underground uranium enrichment plant. When that is introduced and that mountain that they have to fly up, that steep incline where they have to almost fly parallel to the mountain at like a Mach 9 or a Mach 10 speed, which I think is categorically impossible, but run with it.
Yeah.
When they introduce that and they map out the mission, then it gets great. Then I started loving it. Then I started getting really into it, especially during all the test runs they do. There's the intense sequence with Jay Ellis when he's on the test run trying to fly at that kind of an angle at that speed. That's when I started getting really gung-ho. I texted you guys after I saw the movie opening night, and I said during the opening credits, I'm like, I really hope this doesn't suck. And then by like the hour and 30 minute mark, I'm sitting there, fuck them up, Mav. Like I got really into this, and I have not guilty. It's not even that I'm not a Tom Cruise fan. I haven't seen a ton of his stuff. My action is not my forte. It really hasn't been, and it never will be as a movie lover. Action, strangely, has just been one of the genres I've never gravitated towards. But I also think the one thing that makes the movie a cut above, and this is how I wind up justifying the extra half star in my rating too, is that in a few fleeting moments in this thing, you can tell that the ear-to-ear smile on Tom Cruise's face is a genuine one. You can tell that he is genuine in his love for this character. He embodies Maverick. He embodies everything about Maverick. He embodied Maverick when he was young. He embodies Maverick now. And he embodies that same sort of boyish spirit that his character, that leads his character to denying multiple promotions just so he can continue flying and not be like the John Hamm character. And I really see the connection there with Tom Cruise in the way that he relates to Maverick and the way that he's kind of grown up in that sort of style. You think that if Tom Cruise was actually a pilot, he would probably be very similar to Maverick. And I think the connective tissue between the character and the actor here, especially for a major studio blockbuster, has never been stronger.
This is all hearsay from the internet. But apparently when the first Top Gun came out, because I think it was Top Gun was originally a essay or like a news article or something. And then it got adapted into a movie, I believe. But it was a report on like that program, the Top Gun program, which is no longer called Top Gun, but I'll get into that in just a few seconds. But like, he noticed like, yeah, people are cocky. People are like this, blah, blah, blah. This is how the pilots are. And then when the movie came out, it was a feedback loop. So now all the Top Gun pilots in real life, after that movie came out, they just all started doing it to the end. They became parodies of themselves to the point where now it's, just one massive feedback loop of all the pilots being pretty much like all the caricatures, where it is. And I've got some friends online, and some of them are in the military. One of them is actually Navy, and he was like, I've run into some of these pilots. They literally, it's like they're constantly playing the movie in their heads, and that's just how they act.
And that's so wild. I could totally see that. That's not a stretch for me to believe at all. That's life imitating art to the nth degree.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's like I said, there's a lot of angles we could talk about with this thing. The action's the reason you came. Let's be honest. I'm saying the royal you, not you specifically,
right,
Dom.
Right.
But
that's totally the reason why I came too.
The action's the reason you came, and like the sequences of action here are so sublime. A lot of the gravity-defying aerial tricks are just so watchable. And the movie, too, and it wasn't, for the most part, it wasn't. The planes were actually being flown with the actors in the planes and then edited to look as if they were flying. Like, this movie doesn't feel like it was made in a garage. You know what I mean? It doesn't feel like it was made in a garage and decorated in post. It sounds big. It's loud. It's brash. But it's never messy. And that's the other thing I love too, is the editing in this movie. It does it a lot of favors. The clarity here And the spatial clarity is damn sublime, just in the way that it keeps everything so clear and visual and present.
I was worried at first because when they start doing the aerial exercises, the first one, it wasn't clear to me, and I was like, okay, is this going to be a problem? But once, like you said, once they lay out the mission some more, and they start like the canyon run, for instance, or the steep climbing and all that stuff, and then when you actually get to the battles at the end, yeah, it's really a testament, because it's any kind of action, of course, in film, but particularly combat. Go to Jackie Chan or any kung fu, karate, martial arts movie, where it's all about clarity, and how many movies don't do this. But yeah, particularly when you have these big airplanes with all 100% of space around them to be able to do whatever they want. Well, I guess it's not space. It is still within the atmosphere, but still, you have this massive canvas to work with. How are you able to match that? It's actually really impressive. And all the set pieces here are pretty much perfect. I will say it is predictable. You're going to see, well, it's like 85% predictable. There are some really fun and really funny like twists that they pull, particularly towards the end, towards the climax, where it's like, are they seriously? But that only hits because everything else makes sense in that world. But the set pieces here are impressive, and again, this is kind of harkening back to that 80s feel, but without doing it on the nose. Except the music 100%. But the filter and the cinematography is it. I'm going to repeat myself. It harkens back to that 80s feel.
Yeah, and this was also shot too. It's worth noting that it was shot with 6K IMAX cameras, and you can tell too. We skipped the whole K in the resolution department here to get to Top Gun Maverick. So what a thrill that was. It looks gorgeous. Claudio Miranda, who did the cinematography for Life of Pi and a number of other really visually distinct movies, again, never sacrifices the clarity and gives a lot of style to this. I mean, the most gratuitous, but also it just looks good and it's fun and it adds to the camaraderie, is that beach scene in San Diego. Is when they're on the beach and you got the sun beaming down, a little bit of lens flare, but not much, but it is just kind of like a golden, sunny California seascape right there. There's that, obviously. There's that scene. There's just a lot of just really attractive things and people in this movie too, that I think it all just blends together in a melting pot of what is really the chef's kiss blockbuster, and I get to its formula. It is like there's
1,000%.
There's nothing subversive about this. That's, of all the words of praise I've used for this movie, I never called it subversive. And it's gotten to the point now where I really, unless Denis Villeneuve's directing, I really don't expect anything subversive from a movie that's got over $100 million budget.
You've mentioned.
I like to see the formula done well, if nothing else.
You mentioned Mad Max. For me, it's really Blade Runner 2049. That is subversive. That is something else, and that is, in my opinion, still, for all these Lego sequels, whatever, they are. That one's still it for me. But this comes.
It depends on what you lean to with a blockbuster, because, again,
that's
like Blade Runner 2049 is subversion.
And it's
Mad
like
Max
cinema,
Fury,
you know what I mean?
And it's like cinema, capital C cinema, for sure. Absolutely. A tour, if you will. Blade Runner 2049 is subversion. Top Gun Maverick and Mad Max Fury Road, that's adrenaline.
Yes. That is blockbuster. That is summer. That is I keep seeing this post. I have this poster pulled up. It's the one I showed earlier. It's just filtered in orange because of the sunset, while Tom Cruise and Jennifer Connelly are riding on a motorcycle without helmets, and a jet just screaming into the air. It's like, that is perfect. That is just so 80s.
Yeah, and I stand by my one closing point of my review too. I said there might not even be a better blockbuster this year or next, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll throw Marvel in there too. I'll throw DC. Anybody who wants to make a movie over $100 million and try to be better than this one. And if there is, we all win at the end of the day.
Right.
But this is movie. It feels richly conceived. The photography spectacular. It's heavy on adrenaline, as I just said, and it's just so inextricably linked to its main star. Now, I don't want to voice my one criticism with it. I don't want to voice it yet because I know you have a couple points. I want to know some of the more pushback that you would give this movie.
Well, first and foremost, is the military entertainment complex that has corrupted our civic system. No, I'm kidding. But like,
we get it, you liberal. What else did you not like about
not
this
factoring into my review at all? First of all, it's something about Tom Cruise, and it's not a personal thing. I'm not getting into his Scientology thing. I'm not getting into his divorces or whatever. But
he's short, we know.
What he does extremely well. But there's just something about him that as he gets older, he keeps fighting age. Like, you look at Ed Harris, and it's like at the beginning of the movie, they zoom in on him. They do close-ups. That dude is cracking on his face, which I'm not making fun of him for it. He's old. I get it.
I love the guy. I've sung the praises of this actor so much.
Right.
He's probably, if you look at my filmography, he probably has more 4-star reviews of me from of his movies and stuff. I mean, so I have full reign to say this like quick shot at him, and he'd probably laugh it off too. Michael Shannon's 47 and doesn't look as good as Tom Cruise. I thought Michael Shannon was nearing 60, and I found out recently the guy's not even 50. He's Michael
young.
Shannon came out of the womb
He's
like
40.
15 years old visually, I think.
A random swipe at Michael Shannon during our Top Gun.
I love Michael
Maverick.
Shannon. I think it's part of why he plays his character so well. But no, it's true. Like Tom Cruise defies age, and I know there's makeup and everything like that, but the guy just has this boyishness that makes you friggin' loathe him, doesn't it?
We've already spent too much time on this point. It's not really my main point, but I just want to say that it's so obvious that they're caking whatever it is on it, or maybe it's just the money is just keeping him young. But that is literally what is happening truly. But something about it does, and it's really an extension of everything else, where the close-ups on the actors just feels really artificial for some reason, and it's very on the nose on how they do it. With that 80s look during the actual 80s, everything felt more authentic. I'm sure there's a deeper explanation for all of this. Just a feeling I'm having. But my main thing is that this movie flies by so fast that you start to wonder if there's anything really emotionally attaching, anything really truly emotioning, grounding to it. I completely jumbled that word salad because I'm still looking at Tom Cruise's perfect face. But it does make you wonder. It does make me wonder if there is anything really to Top Gun other than the jets. Now, I do want to say that the answer is there never really was supposed to be in the first place. So that's really not really a critique, because this is a product of American machismo and military might, all wrapped up in this awesome, really cool 80s veneer. So I didn't mean to juke you like this, Steve, but it feels vapid, but somehow this movie plays into it pretty damn well. So when it does take itself seriously, it does have serious moments. It feels actually kind of refreshing. Like particularly that scene with Val Kilmer, and how they actually brought him into this movie. I actually really enjoyed. Now, is Val Kilmer okay IRL? I just want to say,
as far as I know, I'm not super.
That was all acting.
Yeah. I don't think anything's expressly wrong with him.
It's just I only say this because it's kind of a surprise in the movie, I think, but Yeah, it's how they handle its characters is actually really cool. But in terms of my critiques, it's really hard to say it for something like this where it's just so damn efficient.
I hate to interrupt you, but it actually turns out, and this just goes to show you, I don't have a finger on the pulse of Val Kilmer. Val Kilmer has throat cancer.
Oh shit, it's real?
He does have throat cancer.
Okay, so then yeah.
I knew there was a documentary out on him now, but like I don't have much connection for Kilmer. So nothing against him. I just don't have much connection. But yeah, he does have throat cancer.
My favorite movie by Val Kilmer aside is Top Secret! Exclamation mark. That is the predecessor right before Airplane, I think. The movie. Same
yeah,
people.
Airplane. Yeah, I was gonna say Airplane kind of swallowed that and Spy Hard. For like that league of movies. Yeah, Top Secret. I never did see it.
That's a great movie. I love Top Secret. I would be willing to watch it.
That's another Jerry Zucker movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway.
But yeah, I'm not articulating my critiques here too well, but it's the strength of the movie really is that it's just so damn tight, and it really does. I'm losing anything but this unintentional pun, but it really does fly by and you have fun with it, which is the point of the whole damn movie anyway. So I'm wondering, Steve, I'm now curious, what's your critique here?
My one critique, and I said this in my review too. I said when a movie's this good and has this much to offer, you forget. When a 9-figure budget movie, when a blockbuster has this much to offer, you kind of forgive it. And the more I thought about it, I'm not going to lie here. I was talking over my buddy who didn't like it as much as me, not really close to as much as me. He enjoyed it, and that was about it. But he brought this up, and I said, I can't clap back at this. The romance is underdeveloped between Penny and Maverick. The romance is definitely underdeveloped, and you don't really get to know that daughter character either very much, too. You don't really get I feel like there was a scene or two missing because there's the scene when he sneaks out of her house, when Maverick sneaks out of her house, and the kid catches him.
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't see them again until the end. And then the Lady Gaga song plays, Hold My Hand plays and stuff. Then you don't really see them till the end. I feel like there was like a scene or two missing in between those moments. But again, I feel, they needed to have a romance. That's just the formula speaking for itself. They didn't need to. I think it would have been a tighter movie, maybe a 20-minute shorter movie if they didn't. And it kind of would have been cool if they did rebel against the convention of having a romance, especially when in this case, they weren't really going to do anything with it anything too meaningfully or subtextually or anything. But it's not enough to even harp on, and this is about as much time as I want to allot that, and I'll take any excuse to see Jennifer Connelly. I truly will. I'm a dog in that regard. But yeah, that would be my only critique of this, is that the romance element coupled with the daughter is underdeveloped for, even for this strong of a movie uniformly, I think.
I'll be honest, I assumed those two characters were in the first movie. I actually thought Jennifer Connelly was the female lead in the original Top Gun, but she is not.
Well, that kid had to be like The Simpsons then, to not age for all this time.
Well, no, I mean, that kid could have been born in 2000. I mean, I think she was, but it within the story. So for me, now that you mention it, that really is kind of starting to bug me, but bug me in a very tiny way. But I just wrote it off as oh, this is clearly coming from the first movie, so whatever. But yeah, let's just go into the final review, man. This is too damn tight and too kind of perfect in its own sweet way. It's not actually perfect, but it is in the context of the summer of 2022, 2 years removed from March 2020. Right?
Sure.
This is the absolute perfect movie to come out this came out at the right time. Holy shit. Not too late to claim that, to reap those rewards, not too early. This because I wasn't expecting a lot of cultural clout to come out of this one compared to the first one, which was just genre defining, decade defining in other ways. But this is a low-key prediction, but this might actually be very influential in how we come out of the pandemic, which we ain't out of yet. We ain't out of for a long time, brother. But just in the sense that it felt like a return to normal, It felt like, hey, this is what movies kind of at least should be like in terms of summer blockbusters, and this is, like, you know, it's nostalgia on multiple levels, in a very meta way that is super interesting to me. And I think I like to think there's a budding sociologist or a historian that's going to look at this history of film, all that stuff, film industry. But, you know, all that aside, this movie actually treks into 3.5 out of 4 stars for me. I didn't think it was going to do it. And again, because this is the first massive I think the first successful massive blockbuster of 2022, and really since the pandemic, it made me feel good, and it felt like, yeah, this is what it should feel like again when I go to the movies.
I'd probably say, I mean, like I said, for non-superhero movies, definitely. You know, you almost have to separate the blockbuster category between super and non-superhero.
I do.
You know, because like I said, I think the movie that I think was the first true blockbuster was probably Spider-Man: No Way Home.
You know, you're absolutely right, and I am
probably, but
that.
Top Gun Maverick, though, not non-superhero though. I think it's pretty safe to lay claim to that.
No Way Home, you could absolutely make that case. That could actually supersede my case. But to be honest with you, you're right. It is its own world, and they just keep coming out. The TV shows don't help with this, and I have seen a number of them, where it's like they kept coming out through the pandemic. They did not stop.
No, they did keep going. So it's in like, you know, it's the same world. It's the same universe.
Yeah.
Now for me, Top Gun Maverick is definitely almost a lock to make my top 5 of the year, which is very surprising for a movie of this nature and how pretentious I am. It's 4 out of 4 stars. I've been leaning towards it the whole time. It's 4 out of 4 stars. It is the first movie I've given 4 stars to this whole year.
Wow.
As much as there's been a lot of great movies this year, and I do intend to re-review Cha-Cha Real Smooth when it comes out to Apple TV Plus. I do intend to re-review that, so that might get the extra half-star bump. But for all intents and purposes, it's the first movie I gave 4 stars to this year, and it's damn worthy of it. Because I went in, and again, was not one of the people who went in super excited to see this. So that even more shocks me. I'm as puzzled as you. When it comes to praising this movie as high as I have, but it's worth it.
I'm not even upset, like, at any kind of inconsistency. Because, you know, I mean, honestly, if you look back at our track record, we contradict our star ratings all the time, or at least I do. Like, mine is not consistent at all.
The star rating is very arbitrary. I've never put Ebert never put a ton of stock into it. I never put a ton of stock into it. So like it, you know, I always go back to his review of the Human Centipede first sequence when he gave that movie 0 stars and said it could be 1 star, it could be 1 star, it could be 4 stars. This movie exists in a place where stars don't shine. That's what he said. And he famously always lashed out about how the star rating is. And the reason I do it is because of convention, and because it's like people like a distillation. People like a distillation of like, oh, is that a 4-star movie? Like, you know what I mean? It's just such common terminology. That's why I use it. And I probably will forever use it. But we'll move forward. I don't think we have to spend a ton of time on this, but I do want to talk about this. I'm not sure if we'll get a chance to review this thing as a group. And I know you guys are not as connected to the Beavis and Butthead lore as yours truly over here. Because I go way back. Beavis and Butthead was one of the first cartoons I ever became like truly obsessed with. You know, there's a lot of stuff you watch as a kid, but like there's few shows. There's a finite number of shows that you really gravitate towards and you become a real fan of. Like for me, it's a personality trait for me, for Christ's sake, is Arthur. Yep. Beavis and Butthead is on my Mount Rushmore of animated shows. It easily is. So I've been a fan of it for years. And I also have to just really look at the fact too, that like, you know, he's a household name. He's obviously very popular, but he doesn't do a lot. Mike Judge does not do a lot. He's always kind of been, even in the 90s, he's been kind of famously sporadic. You know, I mean, in the 90s, he had King of the Hill, and he also had Beavis and Butthead, obviously. But he's always been pretty sporadic with like his work. Like case in point too, Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe. The trailer just dropped last week. That's his first directorial effort since Extract in 2009. He's done a lot of producing work, but he hasn't really written anything movie wise in quite a long time. He obviously did Silicon Valley. He did that. And he did that other animated show that lasted like a season, The Good Family. He did The Good Family too in between. But he doesn't overload himself. He's not kind of like McFarlane. I think at this point too, he's like been the kind of guy that's made his money and is very content. But he still has a real soft spot for Beavis and Butthead, clearly, because coming to Paramount Plus on June 23rd, Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe tagline gets right to the point here. The dumbest science fiction movie ever made. Which I already like that a lot too. Couple just reactions of the trailer, because I sent it to you guys like immediately too. Couple reactions from the trailer that I have as well is that I'm glad that it doesn't look like this thing is going to take place entirely in space. I'm really kind of happy about that.
Yeah.
That it's not going to take place exclusively in outer space. Like, I think there's going to be a time where they literally or figuratively crash back down to Earth, and it's going to be them acting like it's space, which I think is a great thing in and of itself. I think that's a great concept through and through. I think the animation looks good. And I also love too how like there was the Revival series. I don't know if you remember it, when Beavis and Butthead came back for a sixth season? I can't remember because they were released in volumes on DVD, but they came back for like a seventh season, whatever that one season was on MTV in 2011. They came back and it was a really good season. It really was. I watched every episode. It was a really well done season because it was modern, but it wasn't glaringly modern. Like, it was well incorporated. Like, they froze in time, but little things kind of encroached. And mainly the most modern aspect of the newest season were the inclusion of music videos. The music videos they chose, because it wasn't just videos, it was Jersey Shore clips, I remember, which shows you how long ago this was. And they would also do a couple viral music videos, like really fan-made, like really low-budget videos as well, reacting to those. But they were still watching them on TV, kind of rather inexplicably. But they were watching them on TV, so the framework was definitely there. I'm really excited about this. I don't need this to be high art. I don't even think Beavis and Butthead Do America is a 4-star animated movie. I think it's really good for what it is in the adaptation of the show. But I also think that the last thing I'll say about this is that it comes back to the way Beavis and Butthead ended. If you know that story, if the way it ended,
Beavis and Butthead is one of those things that really just passed me by, not because I didn't like it, not because for any reason other than that there's just so much going on in the 90s. That
yes, there was.
Yeah, I just latched onto other things. Luck of the draw.
Beavis and Butthead ended in sort of an unceremonious fashion because while the movie was getting made in 96 and came out, Mike Judge got picked up by Fox to do King of the Hill. And MTV was fine with him doing both. With him working on both. Mike Judge didn't want to work on both.
Yeah.
He really wanted to do King of the Hill because he'd been trying to get that made for years. But he like Beavis and Butthead Do America, it's not technically, because the show ran till 97 in its original run. I think there was one more season or a half season. But Judge wanted to get Beavis and Butthead off his plate at the time to go do King of the Hill. But when he started rumbling in the mid-2000s after King of the Hill ended about going back to Beavis and Butthead, it was really because the fact he's like, I love those characters, and I don't feel like I gave them a real sort of finale that they deserved, especially for the cultural impact they have. There's the famous, and I'll butcher, I don't know the context of it explicitly, but there's that famous Senate hearing where they're talking about like lewd programs on TV or like cable TV and like what is allowed on cable television. And There's the famous one of this 100-year-old crotchety Republican senator who says we don't want kids watching things like Buff Coat and Beaver.
And he did not do that on purpose, I bet.
No, it was like an off the cuff almost thing, and he called it Buff Coat and Beaver. And because Beavis and Butthead was controversial back in the day, man. It was really, as far as innocuous as it is, like I would let my kid watch Beavis and Butthead these days over listen to some of the music that I play on the radio. You know, it's pretty innocuous, save for a couple episodes that they don't even air on TV anymore. But I'm really excited about Do the Universe, if you couldn't already tell by my 9-minute monologue over here. Dom, I assume your thoughts will be far briefer than mine, but your reaction just to the trailer, and again, somebody not being, super familiar with the characters and stuff, like, what did you take away from the trailer?
Just more so with Beavis and Butthead being back in 2022, the fact that they're back in a way that isn't sad. It's like, oh, they're really trying this again. No, it's like,
that's a good way to put it.
They're back. Even as someone who's never grown up with them, I've watched maybe like a couple episodes and they were all right. I had some laughs, but like it just feels good to know that they're doing good. You know what I'm saying? Where it's like, yeah, this show is kind of, not that things aren't allowed to fail and things have to be perfect, that you need to have the repertoire of Daniel Day-Lewis where you're highly selective. But it's like, it's just nice to know that, some properties are doing all right. They're not whoring out. They're not, completely running to the ground. They're not to this, to that, but they're just doing good. And in a way that kind of makes Beavis and Butthead, after all these decades, kind of like cultural, like snakes, lizards, phenoms in their own sweet way, where it's like, because like their whole shtick, if I remember correctly, is that they're kind of apathetic to everything, and they're just too cool, but they're also idiots, and you kind of laugh at them too, because it's like they're self-confident in their own ignorance, but they're also not bad guys, so you don't hate them. Am I hitting on kind of those points?
Yeah, you definitely are.
So it's like, if anything, they're just, it's like Beavis and Butthead are too cool for school, and it's like when they get bored, they leave. I don't know if this is like literally what happens in the plot of the show, but like, it feels like when they get bored, they leave, and then they just hang out in their basement or their couch or whatever and just laugh at what's going on for a bit. And then every now and then they decide to come out just by sheer force of apathy or boredom. And it's like, yeah, we're going to make another movie. Now, of course, this isn't like a Chippendales or Roger Rabbit thing where they're literal people who do, who come out of literal hiding, but just the fact that series has that feel to it. And then they come out with a trailer that's like, damn, this doesn't look sad at all. This actually looks kind of interesting just for the spectacle of it. It's like, yeah, that and a spectacle, and not in a bad way, not in an exploitive way or a negative way, but in a truly like, I'm kind of rooting for you. That's just how I feel about it.
Yeah, there's so much I can go on with this, and I'll try and spare myself, but there's two last quick points. I always loved as a kid watching Beavis and Butthead, clearly, because I loved how simple the episodes were.
Oh, yeah.
I loved how simple
long were they?
Were
they 20 minutes?
There was 2.5 hours. They were about, the actual episodes themselves were about 7 minutes. You factor in two music videos
really?
an episode, so it's about 3 minutes long the actual episodes are probably like 7 minutes. But put in two music videos, you put in a music video or two, that supplements it to 15 minutes or like 12 minutes, 13 minutes. Then you get a commercial break. Then you get another episode.
And the music videos are like Mystery Science Theater style, where it's like they're just making fun of it. That was like
they're sitting on their couch and they're showing clips of it and stuff like that. Like one of my favorites is they always did rock music, which I didn't connect with as a kid really well, like Metallica and stuff. Sure. But when they would do rap was always funny. When they would do like Gin and Juice, Snoop Dogg, and then Beavis would talk to Buddy, be like, "Hey, Buddy, I'm actually from Compton." And he's like, and he goes, "I was raised on the streets with Snoop." And Butthead goes, "Beavis, you're not from Compton. You're a white wussy who's from here."
Okay, so they're making fun of each other. That's funny.
They would make fun of each other, and they'd make fun of the videos and stuff. And that's what a lot of people really loved about Beavis and Butthead were the music videos. I don't mind like now they're coming back to Paramount with the music videos intact, which I do think is cool. But even as a kid, I wanted the episodes. There's literally an episode called Beavis and Butthead versus the Vending Machine where the whole episode is their sour cream and salsa pork rinds. I can't believe I remember that. Their sour cream and salsa pork rinds get stuck in the vending machine and they don't have enough money to get another bag. So Butthead goes and roams for money while Beavis stands there attacking the vending machine.
They don't grow as characters at all.
Not at all. That's
they're
the joke
static.
of the movie.
They're
That's the
just
joke of the
pure
show.
forces of nature. They are what they are, and then the world just reacts around them, and that's the shit. That's the shit.
They learn nothing. That's the beautiful thing. That's the beautiful thing about these episodes. One episode is them finding an open pop can and shaking it the whole episode to get it to explode. That's the whole episode. Like that's the great part about it. The last point I'll bring up is that the movie Beavis and Butthead Do America, which is a very funny movie. Bruce Willis voices the villain in the movie. It's a very funny movie. There's a deleted scene in that movie that quote unquote didn't test well. It's very easy to find. They aired it on MTV, and it's I think one of the best scenes of the whole show, even though it's in the movie. They go to the museum. They're traveling all over the country in the movie, and they go to DC. They go to the museum. They go to the history museum. They go to the monuments and everything. Well, they're in the museum, and Beavis gets his sugar rush attack. That's when he turns into Cornholio with the shirt over his head, and he gets hyper, and he wants teepee for his bunghole.
Yeah, I know that.
He wants teepee for his bunghole. This scene, they took it out of the movie because it didn't test well, reportedly. He takes an American flag and he breaks the case of the Declaration of Independence. And he grabs the Declaration of Independence and goes to the bathroom, and all the cops are swarming and everything, and Butthead's just standing there idly watching it all happen. Beavis comes out of the bathroom back to his normal self, not as Cornholio anymore. And he's like, that's better. And he's got John Hancock's signature on his shoe.
That's funny. That's pretty good.
Like, this show was deceptively witty.
When did that movie come out?
96.
Oh, sure. So that was like the worst thing to happen to America at the time. Minus, the Rodney King riots that happened a few years earlier. But
not the Rodney King.
For middle class America, this was the worst.
I still think it was a great scene. When I finally learned how to use the internet, I remember that was like one of the first YouTube videos I waited an hour to load, was that scene. Now if you can't already tell, I'm a huge Beavis and Butthead fan. I am stoked about this series or this movie coming, and the series coming to Paramount Plus. It's been too damn long that this show has been unavailable on streaming, and from all reports, it's going to be all the episodes, because it's a common misconception. Not all the Beavis and Butthead episodes are available on home media. There's 3 volumes. They're called the Mike Judge Collection. Notice it's not the complete series. It's the Mike Judge Collection, because Mike Judge does not like a good handful of the episodes. He's just not personally creatively pleased with them. So he selected these episodes that came out in these box sets on DVD in the mid-2000s. Yeah. A lot of people misconceive that box set, as those 3, as the complete series. It's not. It's not. There's a good 50 episodes or so missing from those that are online.
What?
There's a good 50 episodes that are missing. Now, a lot of the best episodes are included. I will not argue that. A lot of the episodes that air frequently on MTV are.
His best might be something, or his worst might be someone's best. So who knows?
This is the guy too, that there was an unauthorized DVD that MTV put out called The History of Beavis and Butthead. It did come out for like a week. Some stores, I think it got pulled. Some stores mistakenly put it out. People bought it. It goes for like $500 online. Is because half the episodes on that box set, Mike Judge did not authorize to come out, and Judge demanded they pull it the week of release. But there's still copies of it. It's called The History of Beavis and Butthead.
I did not know he was that protective of it.
I've been trying to get a copy of it for years to pay for my cat's college fund eventually. I've been trying to get a copy for years, but you can't find it for less than like $300.
So is there a complete, can you watch all of them now?
It's the whole series. And again, this is what it makes it sound like, that they're all going to come to Paramount Plus. It's going to come out the weekend the movie comes out.
Oh, wow.
It's going to drop the weekend the movie comes out. Now, if you like your boy over here and you went on ioffer.com around circa 2007 and used your 3 months worth of allowance to buy a bootlegs DVDs of the Beavis and Butthead, I have all the episodes. I've had them for years on DVD-Rs with all the original music videos intact too. with all the original videos. A lot of them are taped off TV. So I have had the complete series, a bootleg copy of it for years and years, because I was always of the mindset growing up that, like, if these companies aren't going to take my money and release it themselves, I'll go pay the guy on eBay who spent hours curating a collection, and I'll go pay him and give him the money to give me the show that I want. I did that for Kenan and Kel. I did that for a CBS sitcom. I did that for a bunch of shows back in the 2000s, where I'm like, I was so pissed off they weren't on DVD, and I'm like, screw you then. I'll go give Joe Drake in Montana, who's got more time on his hands than me, evidently, my money. You know, this went way too long. I apologize. But yes, Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe.
This was the history of Beavis and Butthead right here.
Yeah, right here. That's our show tonight, though. Joe is back next week for Jurassic World Dominion. Ooh. We cannot wait. Jurassic World Dominion, the blockbusters keep coming, because next week we got Lightyear. We're not reviewing. We're reviewing Cha Cha Real Smooth instead. But Lightyear comes out the following weekend, and then you got Elvis. June is pretty loaded. There's not a lot of movies coming out in June, but there's a lot of big movies coming out in June. So I'm excited. We're all excited. We're back here next week for Jurassic World Dominion. Same time, same place, live and in living color. Dominic Guanzon being elite with the controls once again, second week in a row. We salute you, my friend. And yours truly, this has been Sleepless with Steve.